You may have driven past these signs and wondered what they represent. So what are they? They signify that this Ontario farm property has been owned by the same family for 100 or more years.
The program was first established by Junior Farmers Association of Ontario for Canada's centennial and is in fact the only centennial project that still continues to this day. The idea came from Don Lazenby in the spring of 1965. The purpose, to create a pride in ownership, indicate Century Farms to visitors, and remind future generations of their heritage.
The original signs were designed by Sue Forth of Ancaster. By September 1966, approximately 5,000 signs were distributed for $1 each. And by Canada's centennial in 1967, 6,200 signs were put out on display.
These signs were only meant to last 1 year, and many signs did not survive the harsh winters. So in 1974, JFAO reactivated the project with longer-lasting signs, and at the turn of the millennium, JFO expanded the program. Becky Gazenbeek designed the 125 and 150-year anniversary signs in 2009. The 175 and 200-year anniversaries were designed later in 2014.
I'd like to read a quote from Inheritance by John and Monica Laydell. Many of the earliest farms were closely associated with, if not part of, the first settlements of the province. As these settlements expanded to become towns, the first farms disappeared. Towns grew into cities, bringing outlying farms within the urban shadow in a process that continues to this day at an accelerating pace.
Huron Perth Junior Farmers wanted to highlight the rich history that we have within our counties and showcase farm families that continue to have strong roots on both the farm and in their communities.
So welcome to the Century Farm Show.
We hope you enjoy it and learn a little bit more about some of your neighbors.
And if you'd like to sign up for the Century Farm program, please contact your local Junior Farmer Club.
Hi, I'm Lauren. Hi, I'm Yolanda. And welcome back to the Century Farm Show.
We're here at Tom and Bev Prout's Century Farm. It's 150 acres, and Doug cash crops all the land, and Tom and Bev run everything else.
We would be, I guess, the fifth generation on this farm. It was originally owned by great-great-grandfather, and on my father's side, and so it has gone through the family. And my father probably was the individual who was here the longest and did probably the most improvements to the property in terms of cattle and buildings and purchasing the additional properties on which to farm. So that's just very quickly. 1887, I believe, is the date that it was purchased by my great-great-grandfather.
How has the farm evolved over the last generation?
Well, it has. It would have originally been a typical, I guess, farm 150 years ago, where they had a little bit of grain, a little bit of livestock. I remember my father talking, when he came here they had horses, and he didn't like horses, so he took the first opportunity he could to buy a tractor. The barn behind us was originally on the ground, and this is typical of many of the bank barns around here, is that they were raised and put on foundations to give them a second story. And in fact, my great-grandfather's brother died during that process, so that was an unfortunate thing, but part of the history of the family. Over the years, as I mentioned, I believe this farm always had aggregates that were used to build local roads, and more recently, of course, helping with concrete to build barns and houses and laneways and whatnot. So eventually, about 60 years ago, the larger gravel pit or quarry was started by my father, and today it's virtually finished except for a small amount in the background. But so that's something a little different from a Century Farm. This is a small-scale Century Farm, but that's some of the things that have happened. My father loved planes, and that building back there was the hangar for his airplane. And the runway used to go straight out here. Of course, that's long gone, so.
You used to have to dodge the wires on the Kirkton Road.
Yeah, hide your wires on the road to get the
down.
plane over or under them. But the house, we've retained the original house. It's about 130 years old. It's been upgraded inside, but basically the house is the same house that's been there all along. And for us, we think that's part of a Century Farm. It doesn't have to be, but we think that the home is a key part of a Century Farm. The back room, which we now use for laundry and mudroom, was my parents grew turnips, and to provide them with some cash flow in the wintertime, they would fill that back room with turnips, and then they would prepare the turnips by the bushel and sell them in town, so they had some money during the winter.
That's interesting.
Something.
It was quite an evolution to a front load washer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. But the Century Farm too, like we've thought a lot about it and what is a Century Farm, and I guess to us it doesn't matter how big or small they are. It's more the part of the community, the culture, and retaining that lineage. And in our case, it provides a great place for grandkids and kids to grow up and learn about farming, even though they may not be part of the farming operation.
So, if you grew up here and you have lots of memories, do you have one that like sticks out that maybe not everyone knows about or is kind of interesting that you'd like to share?
Well, sure, thanks. Yeah, I grew up in this house on this farm, and as a kid, we did a lot of things on the farm that, of course, it's all modernized, but we would fork silage out of the silo for the cattle before the silo unloader appeared, or pick stones, which we used to call a rock festival, and had to make fun out of it. And then we, of course, baling, the small square bales, and part of the heritage farm or Century Farm would be the old square bales, and you know, you'd spend a lot of time in the hot sun because that's the best time to do it. I remember learning how to swim in the pond because it was there. And my mother loved gardening, and so I remember gardening with my mother. And so Bev tries to continue with the gardens. We now have a community garden down in front of our house where some people from town come out and try their hand at gardening. And it's quite entertaining for us to listen and watch and them learn all about gardening.
Is there any challenges with running the farm that you've experienced over the years? Maybe your great-grandparents or...
Well, interesting enough, my great-grandfather and my great-great-grandfather never actually farmed the farm. They rented it. And so my father would have probably been the first generation that actually owned and farmed it. I think family dynamics, and I don't know of any family that agrees on everything, so I think family dynamics, succession planning, those are all challenges, whether it was 100 years ago or whether it's today, in terms of maintaining the Century Farm in the family.
So you've talked a bit about the farming, but what all do you have on the farm right now? And what have you had in the past?
Yeah, okay. In the past, the father had beef cattle, and they are no longer here. But otherwise, the cash crop, and then we have added a bee yard for, it's only 30 hives, so it's still considered a hobby, but it's lots of work. And we've added the community garden, vegetable garden, as well as last year we started Christmas tree farm. So we're small scale, but we're providing things that we think are good for our children and grandchildren. And we encourage them to join junior farmers and participate in the local fairs. So that's a great learning experience for them. And we have some ducks and rabbits and whatnot around here that the kids have to look after. So it's a good learning experience for them.
So you're for sure all about trying to get the next generation into this. I really like that.
Yes, and as I say, it doesn't have to be large, but one of our objectives is to make sure that it stays in the family for another 100 or 200 years. And so far, I think we're fairly successful at that. You never know what generation or what grandchild might say they want to start farming, and so this could be a start for them. Because as you know, it's harder today for young people to get into farming. It's not only expensive, but it's a challenge. So, this may become a part of that future generation.
Would you have any advice for any new farmers?
Well, I think anybody who wants to farm should follow that dream. They should. I would highly recommend education as part of that, whether it's college or university. Even working for someone else is a good experience. So whether they're working as a paid employee for a larger farmer or working in a pig barn or a chicken barn, I mean, that's all key. Tree planting, rock picking, because some people still pick rocks, even though it's with fancy equipment. Yeah, no, I would certainly encourage them to do that, and it will be a different process. A lot has changed in farming in the last 150 years, and a lot will change in the future. So whether you're 20-year-old and want to farm, or an older person like me and passing it on to someone else, everybody has to be flexible and work to make it happen.
I think you have to look for unique opportunities too to make a small scale farm work. So alternatives that add a little bit to the income. So even we have some solar panels that we bought in, and it helps to keep the cash flow going. There's an end time for that, so we'll have to see what will happen after that. But the Christmas tree farm was sort of for the future too. So I really enjoy the agriculture here. I grew up on a corner of my grandfather's farm in Wentworth County. It was pretty small scale too, and pretty old school. Grandpa used a Gleaner combine, which I actually saw one in production not too long ago. They're pretty old, and we used to be able to go ride on the farm truck with him when he took the grain to the elevator. So that's mostly my experience with farming, but I really enjoy the rural life. I couldn't. The farm where I grew up on is now full of houses, so it would be hard to have stayed in that area.
Whether it's today or 150 years ago, farming has its trials and tribulations, and you got to work through them. But you have to sort of look at the fun things. Like I, as a kid, hoed turnips, and
so he's actually tried growing some in the garden. I can't believe this.
But anyway, but yeah, like the turnips in the back room, and this grass behind us was in fact a pile of turnips that would be covered with straw for the winter, so that they could pick away at them to make. They were selling turnips by the bushel basketful to feed us as kids, right? So it's good to remember and appreciate what you have. Otherwise, we quite enjoy the area and share it with our family and friends. And
I think Tom touched on the sense of community too.
Yes, I meant to forget that. Yeah, go ahead.
I think our whole family has got involved with various groups and organizations, and the community made a lot of friendships, met a lot of wonderful people who care about the area that they live in.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks for reminding me. I wanted to talk about that in terms of community, volunteering, philanthropy. There's so much to maintaining the Century Farm and community, even though it's small scale farm.
you.